अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव रामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. We are reciting from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 19th chapter, text number 36 to 39. Shamo mannishthata buddher dama indriya samyamaha titiksha dukkha sammarsho jihvopasthajayo dhritihi dandanyasa param danam कामत्यागस्तपस्मृतम् स्वभाव विजयः शौर्यं सत्यं च समदर्शनम् अमृतं च सुनृतावाणी कविभिः परिकीर्तिता कर्म स्वसंगमः शौचं त्यागसंन्यास उच्यते धर्म इष्टं धनं नृणाम् यज्ञोऽहं भगवत्तमः दक्षिणा ज्ञानसन्देशः प्राणायामः परं बलम्. This we will recite only one verse. 2 more times we will recite this one. Dandanyasa param danam कामत्यागस्तपस्मृतं स्वभाव विजयः शौर्यं सत्यं च समदर्शनम्. Everybody can recite now. Dandanyasa param dhanam कामत्यागस्तपस्मृतं स्वभाव विजयः शौर्यं सत्यं च समदर्शनम्. दण्डन्यासः परं दानं कामत्यागस्तपस्मृतं स्वभाव विजयः शौर्यं सत्यं च समदर्शनम्. So the third line says Svabhavaha Vijayah Shauryam. Conquering one's lower nature is real heroism. Like that Krishna tells Uddhava. Translation. Absorbing the intelligence in me, Lord Krishna says, constitutes mental equilibrium, and complete discipline of the senses is self-control. Tolerance means patiently enduring unhappiness, and steadfastness occurs when one conquers the tongue and genitals. The greatest charity is to give up all aggression towards others, and renunciation of lust is understood to be real austerity. Real heroism is to conquer one's natural tendency to enjoy material life. And reality is seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere. Then he goes on like this. So it's a very long purport about all these things, and different items are explained here. So here he says, this is a very important part of the purport. Real heroism, okay, I can make it bigger. Real heroism is to conquer one's lower nature. Certainly, everyone likes to propagate his own fame as a brilliant person. But everyone is also subject to lust, anger, greed, and so forth. Therefore, if one can conquer these lower characteristics, generated from the modes of passion and ignorance, one is a greater hero than those who merely destroy their political opponents through intrigue and violence. So in this world, generally, if somebody defeats their opponents, they are considered as a great hero. But the real opponents are sitting inside our mind. The three thieves, lust, anger, and greed. So this is a special line I liked in this verse very much. Svabhavat Vijaya Shauryam. Kamaha krodascha lobhascha dehe tishtanti daskaraha jnana ratna apaharaya tasmat jagrata jagrata. This is a verse giving caution or warning. There are three enemies sitting in our mind. They are thieves who are like highway robbers who attack us on the way to steal the property of the Krishna conscious wisdom that we have received. Who are they? This is Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Jagat Daskaraha, he says they are thieves. So as soon as one finds these thieves coming on the way and attacking us or besieging us from other sides to loot our wealth of Krishna conscious wisdom, we should immediately call for the police. Who are the police? The Acharyas are the police. Srila Prabhupada and the devotees. So by calling the devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, as soon as you call the Vaishnava Acharyas, devotees, immediately the thieves run away out of fear. So, and bad qualities arising from these three, from the lust, anger, and greed, they occupy the mind and render our mind impure. The greed leads to proprietorship mentality, and lust leads to enjoying mentality, bhogavritti, and anger leads to controlling mentality. You will see that Hiranyakashipu wanted to be a Triloka Adhipati, master of all the three worlds. That is lust. And Durvasa Muni wanted to control Ambarish Maharaj, due to which he became angry. Or you find the Bali Maharaj was trying to become a proprietor of all the three worlds also by usurping the property of the demigods. So we find that these three tendencies are in different proportions in all living entities. And all the misgivings arising from these three, if one can conquer, then one is considered to be a real hero, he says. Conquering the inner enemies is real heroism, not the outer enemies. That is the main point that's highlighted here. So I want to show this chapter, 25th chapter. Is it big enough for you all to see? Yeah. Actually, we will not see everything. Only if you see in this chapter, the specific functions of different modes is given here, just like in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. And then after that, there are 10 items given here. The objects affected by the gunas and objects beyond gunas are explained. Lord Krishna tells Uddhava that if these 10 items are paid attention by anybody, they can eventually come to Sattva Guna. There's a two-step process explained in this Bhagavatam. First step is to come to Sattva. And Sattva is a very good springboard from which you can jump to Vishuddha Sattva. It's a very ideal platform. Therefore, you will hear that famous verse. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayaschaye chetaye tairana viddam stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate bhidyate hridaya grantischidhyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani drishtaye vatmanishware. These three verses in the Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, divinity and divine service. In that chapter, it is explained that tada rajas tamo bhava means rajas and tamas, they are gradually driven out by anybody who is practicing devotion service. And when they are gone, one comes sitam sattve prasidati. One is brought to the sattva platform. And in the sattva platform, eventually when one cultivates Navavidha Bhakti, ninefold form of devotion service, under the guidance of a spiritual master, and very attentively, in a disciplined way, following devotional service, then one will very soon come to Vishuddha Sattva from that platform. So you will see, even from Mrigari, Narada prescribed the practice of not harming the other creatures and also chanting the holy name. Srila Prabhupada also, in the early days, when he gave initiation, he first gave initiation and then he wrote with his own hands the 4 regulative principles and put it on the notice board. And the devotees were told to see. Prabhupada told them, please see the notice board, I have put this. When they saw the notice board, they were shocked. Oh, we are supposed to follow this principle strictly. Yes, you have to do this. So the devotees were feeling a kind of, what do you call it, a tug of war in their heart. On one hand, they loved Prabhupada. On the other hand, the principles that Prabhupada demanded of them was a little difficult for them to follow. So after the Guru Puja, they would take a break and go to the donut shop in the neighborhood, to eat some donuts and eat some ice cream, and sometimes to even smoke a cigarette. So Prabhupada would be searching, where are the devotees? There's nobody. So Prabhupada would walk out to the temple and go to the next shop and see that the devotee sitting there, the table chair, they would be hiding behind the table. They would be seeing like this. Prabhupada has come. Prabhupada is searching for us. So this goes to show how, Jesus says in the Bible, you read this, the spirit is strong, but the flesh is weak, we say, which means, there's a strong desire to please the spiritual master. At the same time, there's a lower conditionings dragging us in the downward vector. Like the gravitational pull in this world pulls everybody down like that. So, nevertheless, those, especially I'm talking about Western-bodied devotees in the West, and Prabhupada taught them, those who developed a strong affection for Prabhupada, they could persist, they could resist the current of the lower nature, and they could rise above that. And even today you can see them with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. And one such example is there's Muktavande Prabhu. I heard about Muktavande Prabhu that he took his first initiation from Srila Prabhupada and then second initiation from His Holiness Satsvadas Maharaj. And he was telling the first encounter he had with devotees was, devotees had put a table, they were selling books and doing Harinam Sankirtan. When he heard that Kirtan, he felt, this is not of this world. This belongs to another world, like that he felt. And immediately, instantly was attracted. And it was not some impulse or impulsive attraction. How do you know that? Because what started as an initial attraction became more solidified over a period of time as a commitment and dedication to Guru, and for decades together. So, and I am also seeing many other people from the West, like His Holiness Jayapadaka Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti-Vikas Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. I am telling about, especially in India, those who are preaching there, and here His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj, His Holiness Naranjan Swami Maharaj. So you can see how they all have faithfully remained loyal to Srila Prabhupada. All these years, decades together, 5 decades. It's not an ordinary thing. That means they all have done Swabhava Vidayam Shauryam. They have conquered the lower natures and the current of the material world which is flowing downward, and they are marching ahead very boldly, confidently, swiftly. So therefore, it is very important for us to prepare our mind to come to Sattva so that we can use it as a springboard to jump to the Vishuddha Sattva. See, Vishuddha Sattva is like 24 karat gold. You cannot make any ornaments in that. Now, 24 karat gold is very soft, completely soft it is. You need to make an alloy in that, put an alloy. Then only you can make earring, nose ring and everything. So therefore, Prabhupada taught that in this world, when we are living in this world, to run an organization, you need all kinds of people. And the organization, at the same time, Prabhupada was expecting a spiritual managerial leaders. Those people who are, we have to maintain a state of spiritual consciousness inside, and externally we have to deal with the material energy in whatever way that is appropriate. So that's the meaning of Raja Rishi also. Raja means Rajas, and Rishi means goodness. So when you combine these two qualities of goodness and passion, then passion is like flood. It can do no good. But the flood can be guided by goodness, which is like a dam. When you make it into a dam, then you can use it properly. In the same manner, our passionate nature has to be channelized by goodness in order for this organization to expand in the way that acharyas have, dreamt about and they have conceived of. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the vision for the whole world, for the holy name to be spread in every town and village. So these 10 items we will see surely. We want to see that. At the same time, before we go into these 10 items, I wanted to show something from the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, because there you get information about the... I have shown through many pictures, so the pictures will help us very much quickly to grasp the sloka. Rajas tamascha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata, rajas sattvam tamaschaiva tamas sattvam rajas tata. Krishna is telling here, if you see the picture here, this kind of tug of war is based between good habits and bad habits, or higher and lower natures. So everybody can experience this as long as you are not yet purified in this world. So Prabhupada says that as long as you are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class, you are in a liberated position, Prabhupada says. But the moment class gets over, you get up and then the day starts, then our passion starts coming up. So we want to keep ourselves in an always liberated position. Imagine when you are going through a street, going into a street, a dog chases you and you are running away from the dog, how you feel frightened. In the same manner, the lower natures chase after us like dogs. But when one comes to liberated position, or even Sattva-guna also, one feels relieved of the lower natures. And what are the lower natures we will see now. So according to our karma, our work, our association, and our choice of food, all these things make a particular mode become very prominent. He says, what type of work we do, what type of association of people we keep. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, association doesn't mean that you are bathing in the same ghat or traveling in the same boat. That is not association. He says the association means lovingly having an exchange with somebody. That is association, he says. He says with devotees, you should have a loving exchange. With he says those who are non-devotees who are averse to devotion service, you should be business-like, he says. And that way you are avoiding bad association, even though you may have to interact with them. And when we are walking in the material world, we should not isolate ourselves, but we should insulate ourselves. Because you can't isolate yourself from society and go to Himalayas. But insulating ourselves means knowing the art of keeping oneself like a drop of water on a lotus leaf, even while living in the society. So that way we can avoid bad association and open our heart to good association. Just like tortoise, its senses are very soft and vulnerable. So the head and the hands and legs, it will bring it out when there is no danger. Just like when you come to the temple, our senses should be active. Eyes should see the beauty of the deities, and we should raise the hands and dance and open our heart and mind to the sublime message that is flowing there. But when we are going in the outside world, we have to be alert, withdraw our senses from bad inputs. So that is association. And the batteries are bad. Yeah.
The video becomes. The video will be better if it is done.
Yes. Yeah. So, and also the work that we do, that we explain now, what type of work. Yeah. Yeah. So here he says the sattva is a revealing power, so just the projecting power. Tamas is the veiling power. Veiling actually means covering. The tamas has a nature to cover up like a smoke covers the fire. That is like tamas. And the rajas has a projecting power, means it has a tendency to push. It has a tendency to, it has that nature of demand, greed, push, such kinds of things. And sattva has an enlightening nature. It enlightens the mind and senses. That will come in the later part. So, the below one you see, the rajas, sattva and tamas is shown. The rajas involves passion and activity, controlling mixed selfish desires. It's actually mixed. It's not pure. Sattva is pure. Rajas is mixed. And tamas is impure. So, in rajas means immediately consider selfishness. And in tamas there is pain due to madness, taking in all kinds of substances detrimental to the body. Yeah. While the sattva is divine, rajas is like a human having a choice, and tamas is demoniac. Yeah. So, in what way the predominance of the certain mode is manifested? Krishna says in one's dealings, one's activities, and one's eating. So, dealings means how you deal with different living entities. How you deal, for example, sattva involves the mode of goodness behavior. Rajas involves selfishness, thinking about one's own needs, interests, concerns, and everything. That is dealings. And activities means work, what type of work we do. So these are going to be explained in the subsequent slides. What type of food we eat. सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत. So again, the words are specific words are used. See here, tamas means inertia, laziness, inactivity, dullness. So nidra, alasya, pramad. 3 words Krishna uses. Oversleep or sleeping at odd times. Actually, there is a verse about Sri Ramachandra. Sri Ramam Dasharathatmajam aprameyam Sitapatim Raghukulanmaya Ratna Deepam Adhara Bahu Aravinda Dalayakaksham Nishachara Vinashakaram Namami. This verse says Nishachara means those who keep awake at night. Lord Rama is the killer of them, he says. Nishachara Vinashakaram. Why Nishachara means who? The Bhut, Pret, Pishacha, Rakshasas and Yakshas, these people keep awake at night and the daytime, they sleep. That kind of habit. So, many of the college-going students have experience of this. They are called night hawks. They keep whole night awake, morning 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, they go to sleep. Many of them do not know this actually. Those times are the times for the ghosts and spirits and hobgoblins and Rakshasas to be awake. Actually, ideally speaking, one in Sattva means sleep with the sun and wake up with the sun. When sun wakes up, you also get up. At the Brahma Muhurta time in the morning, at 3 o'clock or 3:30, you get up. So that 3:30 to 7:30, this time is a very golden hour of the day, when the mind is very fresh and it has clarity, purity, all these things are there in the morning. So one can make tremendous progress by that. Really? Are you sharing? They are not saying? Huh?
Yes, you can go here, Coach.
I was sharing it. I didn't share it. How to go there?
You can share your screen.
Okay. Okay. So, What was the last point I was saying? I was telling about keeping awake at night, whole night. And so that is actually in mode of passion and ignorance. So therefore he says oversleep, nidra, alasya, pramad. Those who haven't slept well at night, daytime they will need double the sleep practically to keep themselves brisk. And all day they'll be dull actually. And then he says nidra, alasya means laziness and pramad means madness. Madness due to putting all dead substances inside. So Srila Prabhupada, why did he talk about Varnashrama of people going to the farm communities? The whole idea is sleep with the sun, wake up with the sun, and daytime be very active in spiritual life. And night sleep on time. I went to a couple of farms in India, like one is near Baroda. So they have no electricity. The purpose of not electricity is when the electricity keeps people awake. Imagine if there is no electricity, nobody can be awake. People go to sleep early, and when the sun comes in the morning, they wake up. Like that. So how do we city creatures, how can we survive? So we will have to make, therefore I told you, isolate yourself, not isolate yourself, but insulate yourself. Insulating ourselves means we have to keep ourselves, our lifestyle in such a way that we don't have to do what the whole society is doing, especially with respect to habits, eating habits and sleeping habits. So in passion there is attachment and selfishness and controlling tendency. In sattva, there is purity, honesty, divinity, clarity, you see. Yeah. Therefore, he says this is called as illumination in all the gates of the body. How do you know illumination? Like, do you think there will be a glowing eyes and glowing ears and glowing nose and glowing mouth? What is illumination? Illumination means eyes only want to see pure things. Ears want to hear pure scriptural sound vibration. Mouth wants to eat only pure prasadam. Actually, if you advance in spiritual life, you cannot eat that which is not offered to Krishna. You cannot touch it. There is one verse which says, Annam Vishtam Jalam Motram Yad Vishnor Anaivedita. It says, if food or water is not offered to Vishnu, it is stool, it says, and it's urine and stool, it says. So it's a very serious statement. Scriptures say that. So, therefore, there are some devotees in Pune, students, when they go out, 3 days they will survive on fruits only. They won't touch anything anywhere. They won't eat anywhere. Because food which is not offered to God should not be touched also, once a person becomes a seriously practicing devotee. So, ideally speaking, we should cook, lovingly cook and lovingly offer. Devotion service is not like armchair speculator type lifestyle that we philosophically know things, but we don't implement them in our life. So one of the aspects of implementing devotion service in our life is to cook and offer to the Lord, and then accept the remnants of the Lord in the mood that this food is tasted by Krishna, and then only we will make progress in bhakti by that. And in the event of no food available that is offered to the Lord, then we have to fast. Otherwise, we have to eat some fruits, and which is direct gift of Krishna from the nature. Isn't it? So in this way, when we come to the sattva, the clarity, purity, honesty, divinity, when these things come, we won't be able to consume things. I'm telling about two things. Food, illumination means with the mouth, we will only want to put prasad. With eyes, we want to only see pure items. We don't see impure things. So that is the meaning of illumination. On the other hand, in Rajoguna, you see, we put spicy foods into the mouth, which are burning, and tears come in the eyes. And when the next day you go to pass in the washroom, then backside also is burning. Mouth also is burning, back also is burning. So those are Rajoguni foods. And Tamoguni foods make us dull and make us sleep too much, and the stale, putrid foods and things like that. So when one performs active, Prabhupada says philosopher, scientist, and poet, Prabhupada says. Because poet requires a creative mindset, and scientist requires intelligence and to think deeply. And philosopher also, he has a natural inclination towards life. What is life all about? The meaning of life, purpose of life. So these things require goodness. And also through music, through various activities of goodness. So one has to, even for the children, there should be harmless recreation like Bharatanatyam, for example, and there is a classical music with which you can sing Krishna's songs. Or in this way, if one is a teacher, then one can teach Krishna consciousness along with one's teaching. Through music, we can connect to the Lord. We can have, here you see gardening and making flowers to offer to Krishna. So, how to know our sattva has increased? Prabhupada says, when every one of the 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals and anus is illuminated by the symptoms of goodness, he says, when the real awareness of things through sound of the Vedas appears in all the doors such as ears, he says. And then he says here, there will also be an appearance of happiness arising from the soul. Baladev Bhushan says here, happiness will arise from the soul. When knowledge and happiness appear, one should understand there is an increasing sattva. That means spiritual knowledge increases and wisdom, as wisdom increases, you feel the joy, you feel the bliss, happiness. So this is one of the symptoms. Lead a clean life as scriptures are telling us, and immediately you feel increasing wisdom and increasing happiness. Actually, Prabhupada gave this experience to the people of the West, and therefore the youngsters became very confident, very bold in practice of Krishna consciousness. They lived their life as if they are going to conquer the world in 1 week. That's the way they lived. How? Because he taught them a lifestyle of Sattva-guna, and they had affection for Prabhupada. Sayeva sadhusha kruto moksha dvaram apavritam, which means when one is attached to the spiritual master out of love, then one follows the principles very faithfully, strictly. And then by following the Sattva principles strictly, they felt happiness. And the wisdom was increasing. You can hear the recordings even today, how much vigor they have in chanting Hare Krishna and doing Sankirtan, and during the lectures, the way they ask questions inquisitively. So Sattva increased more and more. Lova pravrittir arambat karmanam ashamah spruha rajasyetani jayanti vivriddhe bharatarshava. Here Krishna is telling, when there's an increase in the Rajoguna, the symptoms of great attachment, fruity activity, intense endeavor, an uncontrollable desire, and hankering. So 4 things Krishna is telling here for Rajoguna. He's saying there's a great attachment, he says. And then fruity activity, he's saying. And intense endeavor, an uncontrollable desire and hankering, he says. These are the words he's using. Lovaha, he says. And then pravrittir arambaha means intense endeavor. Yeah. Karmanam, he does the work. Ashamahas praha. That means he has uncontrollable desire and hankering, he says. So rajasi etani jayante. These are the things that come in. So these words can be remembered. Lovaha. And pravrittir arambaha. Lova pravritti arambaha karmanam. So here he says, a man who is attached to the fruits of his labor, who passionately wants to enjoy them, who is greedy, envious, impure, and moved by happiness and distress, will work every mode of passion, he says. Yeah. So here you can see below, Bhagavad Bhushan in his translation, he says, in his commentary, efforts to increase the possessions, he says. That means working too much means what? Increasing the possessions. Engaging in strenuous undertakings, he says. Like for example, somebody says about 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day. Strenuous undertakings. Also, one is not satisfied with God-given gifts. One wants to accumulate more and more. Inability to withdraw the senses from sense objects. And that is lust actually. And longing for objects of enjoyment arise with an increase of rajas, he says. So we've shown the picture, you can see that fellow is swallowing, I think, dollar notes, I think, in the top. Another fellow is like taking a boulder in the top, which shows too much hard work is not appreciated. Even Krishna says to Brahmana who came from Rukmini, he asked him, na ati kichrena, he's saying. Swadharma na ati kichrena means even your sadhana, morning program sadhana should happen very blissfully. It should not be troublesome. If it is troublesome, that means we are not attentively following the scripture. It should be very joyfully performed. So, susukam kartum avyayam. Like if somebody is dozing, sleeping in chanting or in the class and everything, that's because they have eaten late night. If somebody is eating at 10 o'clock heavy, then the next day morning we feel very asleep. Or we have worked in computer so much that our eyes are not letting us sleep peacefully at night. When you go to sleep at night, you don't get sleep for 2 hours. So therefore, that's the low pravritti. That means our work becomes greedy work. Then reduce the work, keep the lifestyle in such a way that we will be able to, blissfully do the spiritual activities, and material activities also should be done only that much, as much as is required to earn the body and soul to keep them together. Otherwise, we have to work like this boulder lifting, you see. And the right side of that, it shows man-woman attraction, passion. People become such partners even before marriage, without the blessing and permission of parents. They roam with one girl and marry another girl and divorce her and marry a third one. That's a kind of lifestyle nowadays we are watching everywhere. So this is all in passion. Yeah, the tendency of being unable to give up one's possession. See what kind of purchase they are doing. You see here. Stop and shop until you drop. All you won't be able to even carry also. So they never satisfy, Prabhupada says. They hanker to increase his position. Increasing desire for wealth, he says. Wealth as well as position, both. That is lobha, he says. And tendency to make efforts to increase one's possessions. Like here is a picture which shows you working too much. Pravrittihi prayojanam anudishya api chalana svabhavata, he says. That means actually too much active devoid of any purpose. Why he is saying devoid of any purpose? In this world, whatever we accumulate, we leave behind and go. We know very well that Krishna consciousness is the only thing which comes with us. So then one should mold one's life in such a way that we don't get stuck in this material world, repeatedly taking birth. So one has to, and therefore, there is one famous verse, Atak kavedna masuya vadarta syada pramatto vyavasaya buddhihi siddhen nitarte nayateta tatra parishramam tatra samikshamana. This verse says that there's 24 elements. The whole world is made of 24 elements. It's a conglomerate of 24 elements. One shouldn't take it so seriously that one lives in this dream world whole life without taking the spiritual life seriously. So he says that otherwise that parishramam tatra samikshamana means the great souls see that this world is simply a conglomeration of names only. Toothpaste has one name, car has one name, pen has another name, your shop has one name, but ultimately all of them in the pralaya time will mix together and become one substance called pradhan, ultimately. So then why to take those substances seriously? Take the soul and soul's effort to attain Krishna's lotus feet. Take that seriously, he says. So, yeah. Yeah, here Sridhara Swami says, engaging oneself always in work. Pravrittir nitya kurvat rupata. Nityam kurvat. That means working at every moment, working, called workaholism, what we call. That's what he calls as, Sridhara Swami calls it as this thing, pravritti. So karmanam arambha means like making big effort to build a huge house, you see that. And then also work which yields fruits. Like phala sadhana bhutanam karmana. Arambe udyoga, expecting a big result. Yeah. Purpose, if he wants to construct a residential house, he tries his best to have a palatial house, as if he will eternally reside there. He says, Prabhupada, as if he's going to live there forever. They make a big house and they are gone. Ashamaha means inability of the senses to give up enjoyments of sense objects, he says. See this joke at the top. Wow, this shirt looks nice, and she says that I will take one of every color. You saw that? Yeah. Yeah. Constant cogitation of the kind that is after doing this, I will do that after this. Like people keep on planning after this, there is no end to that. You say that's called ashamaha. Spriha means longing for the objects. Spriha vishayachaya. Vishayacha, he's saying. Vishayacha is called spriha, he's saying. Great hungering for sense gratification. One always wants to remain with his family and house and continue the process of sense gratification without thinking about spiritual life. Longing to possess good or bad things from all sides. So, in this way, that was about Rajaguna. Now about Tamoguna he is telling. He does not work by a regulative principle. That's the first thing he says. That means he has no time fixed to sleep. He has no time fixed to eat. Anytime he will eat, anytime he will sleep. And he has no guiding principle or discipline or anything. And he wants to act whimsically. And even though he has a capacity to work, he takes no initiative, no endeavor. Either he says. Yeah. So these are the characteristics of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas we discussed. Yeah. See here, it does not work by regulatory principle. He wants to act whimsically for no purpose. So, aprakasha jnana anudaya is saying. That means the knowledge has not awakened. He has not become illumined by knowledge, absence of knowledge. So, opposite of Sattva-guna is Tama-guna. So, one important thing as devotees, we have to think, if any of the Tama-guna principles we are carelessly following, then we will also have difficulty in realizing and implementing the knowledge we study in the scriptures. We can see that. Like one devotee was asking, why you don't rise the Brahma Muhurtam and chant? Do you have any health issues, or do you have any, late night work? Like in India, people work from evening 5 o'clock to night 1 o'clock. So he simply told me that, Prabhu, I'm not planning my life to be like that. Actually, my work gets over by 8 o'clock, he said. But I sleep only at 12. He said, why? I just don't know, he said. This is the way I've been just hanging around, talking, chatting, watching some thing in the internet, some YouTube videos. And I said, why do you do that? Sleep early, sleep at 9. You have the ability to sleep at 9, sleep early and rise early. Show your seriousness to Krishna that I am serious in attaining you, then you have a very bright spiritual future. So therefore, if we don't work by a regulated principle, we cannot advance in spiritual life. See, I will tell you the advantage of regulated lifestyle. This fan, if you see, if this fan is rotating fast, can you put a stool and climb up and stop it? It is difficult to stop. Our mind is like that. Mind is difficult to stop. But if you switch off the fan will stop. So that is like a regulated lifestyle. Regulated lifestyle is like a switch, more easy to stop. So the regulated lifestyle is directly connected to the mind. If we can lead a regulated lifestyle, mind becomes calm, cool, collected. And with a calm mind, for example, if I take a lens, magnifying glass, and if I shake it like this, can I focus it on a focal point? Is it possible? If I do like this, then you can't burn the paper or cotton. Similarly, why we don't become purified fast? Because our mind is always vibrating, what do you call it? It's like hyperactive. Yeah, it's agitated and hyperactive. Mind is wandering. And the wandering mind can be at once stopped by regulated lifestyle. At time prakana, time persona. Sleep on time, wake up on time. Don't eat any time of the day. Have a fixed time for eating, fixed time for sleeping, fixed time for whatever recreation is allowed. For example, swimming or walking or yoga or pranayama, breathing, dancing. All these things are recreation allowed for the Vedic followers. And so one should adopt a lifestyle which becomes favorable for coming to Sattva and going beyond. And if you don't have regulated principle, then we are like Tamaguni. Look at these two drunkards, how their life is. We may say, I don't drink like that, but our life is also like that only. So we are living life as if we are drunk. Look at this fellow, how many cigarettes he is smoking. See here? Even though he may sleep for 10 hours, he will be yawning like this. And that is because the sleep has to happen I had a video which shows why the top-notch CEOs rise at 4 a.m. You seen that? It's like 10 to 2 is very vital for sleep. So, apravritti means, Siddhar, Rajoguna means pravritti, here it is apravritti. Absence of all effort and enjoyment of things prohibited by the scripture and aversion to prescribed actions. Exactly opposite to Sattva-guna, if you see. In Sattva-guna, people do prescribed action, this fellow does activities that's not prescribed. And Sattva-guna, you avoid all prohibited activities. But here, these fellows indulge in prohibited activities like meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, all those things. So, see this picture? Inattention. See, this is the result of such a lifestyle, inattention. A conviction that one does not have anything when holding it in one's hands. Pramadaha. A lack of awareness, such as not noticing something one is holding in the hand. For example, I put my specs like this and ask you, did anybody see my specs? I don't know. It is right here. but we may not know it. So actually such inattention comes. Look at this fellow is talking in a mobile while crossing the road. You can see that. And accidents happen. A lot of automobile accidents happen because of this carelessness. And that arises from tamaguna, he says. That means tamaguna is even materially disadvantageous. What is because of spiritual disadvantages? Yeah. Not remembering one's duty. Sri Swami says, Pramada kartavyarthanu sandhana rahityam, he's saying. That means forgetting one's duty. Oh, you told me this, I forgot. That forgetting and inattention, carelessness, foolishness, ignorance, all these things come in which guna? Tamaguna, negligence. Inability to hear properly, or even after having heard, forgetting it. And even after being told second time, still not remembering it. All this. And also moha means, he says, absorption in the wrong or false. Moho mithya viniveshaha. Yeah. And they have wrong knowledge, he is saying. Moha viparita jnanam. What is the meaning of this wrong knowledge? There are many people who indulge in many bad habits and they claim that this habit will be good. Like somebody was telling, beer if you drink, you get very nice fair color. You'll be more healthy. Like that one fellow was saying. I asked where he said, no, I feel like that. It is their own imagination. So that's what he's saying. Viparita jnanam, he's saying. That's moha, illusion. And then he's saying, yeah. Yeah, only by sattva that one can perform all other duties properly. See, we can divide the mankind into two classes, Ravana class, Kumbhakarna. Ravana was passionate, Kumbhakarna was ignorant. These two we have to give up. Ravana, look at Ravana, he is carrying away Mother Sita, kidnapping her. So that means he is having pravritti, he works hard, he is lusty for women, he wants to do all atrocious activities. On the other hand, you find Kumbhakarna is fast asleep. Yeah. He applied brutal force to achieve his end. By unethical competition. Okay. Actually, and then I want to come to the last part. I want to show you one thing. See, human life means you can do these 5 things here. See, 4 things as it here. You can inquire about life, death, and beyond, discriminate between what is good, what is bad, and what is divine. You can give up the old habits and adopt new habits. That's the meaning of Svabhava Vijaya Shauryam. And we can know the purpose of life. Actually, second step leads to third step. Once you can discriminate between good, bad, and divine, then we can make an effort to bring out the divinity in us, the heart transformation. And then lastly, here is the thing. Here you can see, Tasmat tvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarishava papmanam pradikikyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Krishna says that one should begin transformation in one's life by controlling the senses, he says. That's the most easiest thing to do. Because senses are gross and they can be easily controlled than the mind. The mind is very difficult. But Adav, he says, which means begin with senses and gradually go to the mind and intelligence, like that he says. See here, control the senses first, like tortoise and snake, example is given here. Withdrawing senses from harmful habits. That playing of the instrument by the snake charmer is the chanting of Hare Krishna. You have seen the snake charmer playing? He plays like that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So the senses become gradually intoxicated by the holy name, liquid nectar of the holy name. So by hearing the holy name more and more, the senses will give up their propensity for sinful activities. Then the tooth of the serpent can be removed, which is bhogavritti, or the enjoying mentality can be removed. And below you find the tortoise, a very good example Krishna gives. Why? Because the tortoise brings neck out and hands and legs out at some time. In Kolhapur temple, Mahalakshmi temple, you will see at the entrance door you will find one tortoise. It's made of stone. What it shows is when you come to temple, your senses should be utilized for taking darshan of the Lord and singing the Lord names, hearing the katha and all that. But when you are attacked by Maya, immediately one should withdraw one's senses. By mistake also, if one gets to see impurity, immediately one should withdraw one's senses and not let the senses wander foolishly. Otherwise, one will be destroyed. And therefore, we have shown these 3 monkeys also. 3 monkeys. Don't see bad, don't do. Don't see bad, don't hear bad, don't speak bad. They're helping us one another, I say. Okay. Offer positive spiritual engagement. It's not enough to just control. You have to offer positive spiritual engagements to purify them, pacify them. On the right bottom corner, I have shown Ambarish Maharaj's famous verse, Savai Manan Krishna Padaravindayo Vacham Sivaikuntha Gunanuvarnani Karau Harer Mandira Marjananishu Shrutim Chakara Chuta Satkatodaye Mukunda Linga Layadarshanen Drisho Tadvritya Gatra Sparshenka Sangamam Granam Chatarpada Saroja Saurabhe Shrimat Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpite Padau Hare Kshetra Padanu Sarpane Shiro Grishikesha Padavimandane Kamam Chadasyena tu Kama Kamyaya Yadottamashtoka Gunashraya Ratihi. He did not become conquered by lust or anger or greed. Rather, he conquered all the lower natures. Who? Ambarish Maharaj. These are the things shown on the right bottom. All engaging all the senses and mind in Krishna's lotus feet. Yeah, that's all. Prabhupada ki. That is Swabhava Vijayam Shauriyam. So I'll take one question for 5 minutes. Anybody wish to ask any question? Anybody want to ask? Yes. You want the mic? You want? You can do this. It will go there. Yeah. Yeah, you can come. Yeah, I can ask. Yeah. You can ask. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Krishna, so I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Krishna, I have a question. Earlier you said that activities in the Bhagavad, like scientist, poet, music. So I'm confused. Like music is considered the work of the Shudras. So why is it in the mode of goodness?
Yeah.
And also, like the work of the scientists, it requires so much speculative knowledge, and I've heard that intelligence is in the mode of passion. So how is it the work of goodness?
Yeah. Sorry. Can't lose. If you see Durga Devi, she has 3 roles. You see Tamaguni role, Rajamuni role, and Sattaguni role also. You will see the Tamaguni role, you will find her in Calcutta, you will find with multiple hands, with the tongue protruding outside. Even Lord Shiva is below her feet. She is dancing on the chest of Shiva. You have seen that picture? You will see that she is doing Tandav. So like Shiva does Rudra Tandav, she does Shakti Tandav. She also does. That is one form of Durga. In the same manner, you will find in another place, you will find Shiva sitting next to, Parvati sitting next to Shiva peacefully and asking questions on Bhagavatam. You will find in the Ekamara one in Bhuvaneshwar, you will find that. She's asking question. And Lord Shiva is answering, like she's asking question. Parvati vachakeno payena laguna vishnor nama sahasrakam patitai panditai nityam shrotu vichhamyaham prabho. And then Shiva says, Ishvara vacha Shri Rama Rama Rame Tirame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatturiram Rama Nama Varanane. She's telling Vishnu Sahasranama is very exhaustive. Can you please make it a brief prayer and tell me? And then he says, Shri Ram, Ram, Ram. 3 times you tell, it's equivalent to singing the whole Krishna Sahasranam like this. Shiva tells her. So this is not the only question. She asks many, many questions like that. And Shiva is answering now. Now she plays dual role. You see that. I mean, Tamaguna, Rajaguna, Sataguna, and all the 3. And she plays a role like that. You will see that. Similarly, you will find also when it comes to music, playing the musical instruments, and also the Shudras perform in the lesson and all. Like for example, when the kettle drums are played, when you go in a death procession, for example, the whistle, you've seen that. You must have observed that, correct? When the body is dead, body is taken, they play instruments and everything like that. Yeah, you will see that. So that is all done by that type of thing is done by Shudras. But actually the ragas, like Carnatic music or Hindustani music, which is taught in fact that evokes Sattva in anybody when you sing. On the contrary, if you see the passionate music like like Prabhupada went to the Avalon ballroom, they were strobe lights were on and they were putting passionate music, 110, 120 decibels music, if you see, which actually creates a disturbance in the biological rhythm. Yeah, you can see that in the Mood Indigo, you must have seen also an IIT, correct? Yes. They play such music like that. That has nothing to do with Sattva at all. You find like that. So that means in the music, there is a Sattva aspect. There's a Rajasic aspect. There's a Tamasic aspect also. Yeah. Now, in the same manner, when you talk about science, science involves innovation. It involves creativity. It involves thinking. It involves thinking ahead of what others have till now thought about. And that can only come by intuition, creativity, innovation, thinking out of the box. So that aspect of, scientists is actually coming from Sattva. When many of the scientists, you will see that they can quickly take to spiritual life. They become philosophical also. There is one video on how different scientists were asked about, origin of universe. And, when they talk about this, there are a good number of scientists who are also philosophers, you will find, like Schrodinger, for example. You will find Lord Kelvin, some Benjamin Franklin, some Newton, Einstein, you find Max Born. You find these are all very, very big scientists. I'm not talking of not so familiar scientists. I'm talking about familiar scientists. So they also have a philosophical side very strongly because they go hand in hand together. Now, Jnanis are, of course, speculators. Jnanis do speculation. But what is the conclusion of their speculation? Bahunam Janmanamante, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, Vasudeva, Sarvamiti. So these 3 are connected. If you see Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti, how are they connected? When one is suffering in this world, one tries to sort out the suffering by one's own ways. But when one is unable to find a solution to suffering, then one becomes a Jnani. Then one speculates how to get out of suffering. In the course of speculating and searching, he comes to the point of Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the body, I am spirit soul. I am different from it, and the soul can experience Satchidananda. He understands that. Then he meditates Aham Brahmasmi, and then he does thousands of lifetimes. Then he comes to the understanding that Vasudeva Sarvamiti. He understands Lord Vasudeva in the heart of everybody. Then he becomes Ashtanga Yogi. And after becoming Ashtanga Yogi, and Lord is standing and he is sitting and continuously meditates, and that's all he wants. But after developing in that meditation more and more, he develops a very intimate loving relationship with the Lord. Like Brahmaji, Lord shook hands with him. And that's where then from the Dasyaras, from Shantaras comes Dasyaras. Brahma accepted himself as servant of the Lord. Then comes Sakyaras. Then Vatsalya comes. Then Madhurya. Development happens. So then he comes to the Bhakti. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 words are used. First, Nyani sees only Param Jyoti. And then he sees Sarvabhuta Guhavasam. It is said. Sarvabhuta Guhavasam means Lord residing in the heart of every Jiva as an Antaryami. Then Bhagavantam Adokshajam. Bhagavantam means Lord with 6 opulences. Adokshajam means beyond the range of the senses, which means he is Vishuddha Sattva. He sees the personal form of the Lord, which is in Vishnu Sarva. So these are promotion. Yeah, from Paranjyoti to Sarvadukha to Bhagavatam Adokshajam. And they are all in one line only. He evolves like this. So therefore, even for the jnana to be awakened, and even if somebody is only speculating, he gets nowhere. He's still figuring out. He hasn't found out anything. You see, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhakti Labate Naram. He says that two things he's saying. One thing is Na Shochati Na Kankshati is one thing. Another thing is Madbhakti Labate Param. Madbhakti Labate Param. He attains my bhakti. But that comes later. Initially only Na Shochati Na Kankshati. But speculating jnani, we cannot even come to the point of Na Shochati Na Kankshati. He cannot even come. For him to be able to come, he has to have fixity in Brahman. So that means he is in a speculating platform, comes to the realization that there is a Nididhyasan, we call it. I can just show you that just 1 minute. I have to share it now. You see here, Nirantaram Vicharoya Shrutartasya Guror Mukhat is saying. After hearing from Guror Mukhat, what you should hear? Shruta Artasya. You should hear the meaning of the Shrutis. And Nirantaram Vicharo. You have to continuously think about it. Not that he speculates. Very clearly it says, Shruta Artasya Guror Mukhat. After hearing from Guru, then Nirantaram Vicharo. Then Nididhyasanam Proktam Tachai Kagrena Labhete. And then if he does Nididhyasan like this, then that leads to Ekagradata, he says, one-pointedness. And when that one-pointed state comes, there are 4 stages of practice which lead to that. You see, for what the first thing is here, see. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekam. So that means first you should know what is permanent, what is temporary. He has to understand that. The difference between what is temporary, what is permanent. Then he says, Iha Amutra Artha Phala Bhoga Viragam. Iha means material in the earth, and Amutra means Swarga. So Iha Amutra Artha Phala Bhoga Viragam means he has to give up the attachment for the earthly and heavenly pleasures. That's the second thing. Then Samadhi Shakka Sampati, in that there are 6 items. Shama means he has to control the Antakarana consisting of Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Chitta. He has to control that. And Dhamma means 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas. They have to be controlled. Then Uparati means he has completely stopped the external organs, that he has no more attraction for any external things. And Titiksha means tolerating the Tapatraya. Shraddha means faith in Guru and scriptures. And Samadhan means the completely concentrating mind on God and Guru, not speculating. So that is Samadhi. From Samadhan comes Samadhi. So these are the Samadhi, Shakka, Sampati, the 6, qualities that Nyani requires for him to be able to come to the Samadhi. And then Mumukshatvam, the firm conviction that nature of the material world is misery and intense longing for moksha, that comes from what? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa, not by speculation. You will see that. He has to do Shravan from the Upanishads, Advaita with all that he hears, Brahma Sutras. And then he has to reflect on the teachings heard. His speculation is called philosophical speculation. Philosophical speculation is different from mental speculation. And then comes the Atma Brahmevi, Vakyate, Visheshena Vicharate. Atman is Brahman, like that he comes to conclusion. So 4 things are there. So that is Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekam, Iha Amutra Artha Phala Bhoga Viraga, Shama Adi Shakka Sampatti, and Mukshatva. So all these things are based on scripture and it is not speculation. His speculation is only in the very early stages. Eventually, even he requires, even Shankara says in the Bhagavatam, what he says, Guru Charanam Bhuja Nirbhara Bhattaha Samsarada Chirat Bhava Muktaha Seyandriya Manasa Niyamadevam Drakshasi Nija Hridayastam Devam. That's a concluding verse. What is this? Guru Charanam Puja Nirbhara Bhakta. He has to be a wholehearted disciple of Guru's lotus feet, he says. And samsara achirat bhava mukta. Samsara, then he can rise above samsara achirat very quickly. Mukta, he becomes free. So the best method of becoming free from the material samsara sagara is firmly attached to the Guru's instructions. Hold on, Guru Charanam Puja Nirbhara Bhakta, he says. And then Sa Indriya Manasa Niyama Deva. He has to take the senses, Sa Indriya and Manasa also, mind also. Senses and mind, Niyama Devam, we should apply it on the Lord completely. Niyama Devam, senses and mind. Drakshasi Nija Hridayastam Devam. Then you will see the Lord in your heart, he is saying. So these are methods prescribed even for Jnanis. Even Jnanis also accept the form of the Lord. They also accept chanting. They also accept study of the scriptures. Because they know that without the help of... So there are 4 types of Jnanis explained in Bhagavad-Gita. 2 of them are proper Jnanis and 2 of them are improper Jnanis. So the improper Jnani is explained as one who considers Krishna's body to be material. He is one fellow who goes to hell and he repeatedly takes material bodies. He is one type of Jnani. And another type of Jnani is one, he tries to attain moksha without depending on the Lord. Arya Kritsnena Param Padam Tataham Patanti Adu Anadra Tishmadanga is the second type of Jnani. The other 2 are proper type of Jnanis. One is Jaramarana Mokshaya Mamam Mama Shritya Tantite, he says, Mama Shritya. He takes shelter of me. By taking shelter of me, he wants moksha. That is one type of Jnani. So he attains moksha. He knows that Krishna only can award moksha. Harit Mina Mritimna Taranti. So that fellow goes to moksha. Then another type is, he wanted moksha from the Lord, but in the course of asking moksha, he fell in love with the Lord. Like, for example, Chatushka Maharaj, or Shukadeva Goswami, or Billamangal Thakur. They all were impersonalists before, but eventually they became devotees. That is one type of Jnani. So 2 Jnanis, they accept the Lord's divinity. Other 2 Jnanis are condemned as Mayavadis. So the first 2 are Brahmavadis, other 2 are Mayavadis. Yeah, 24 of them. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta ki.